Hello everybody, my name is Cubankler Music and welcome back to the second part of the Dubstep Start to Finish series. Sorry this took so long to get out. I'm not gonna lie, I just didn't fucking do it. There's no reason. I have zero excuses. Actually I did take an exam, but you know what, fuck it, let's not waste any more of your precious time. All I care about is getting this video over 10 minutes, am I right? Okay. So this part of the video will be on the build-up. Now I've done a couple tutorials on the build-up in the past, mainly because the first one got a lot of money. I got views from that, so I got more money than I usually do. But I'm going to go through and talk about this build-up. If you want to see another tutorial for build-up, one will be right up here around the top of the video right about now, popping up. If I remember to do that, I probably forgot. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right into it. First, okay, so our main drums are right here. Okay, that's what it sounds like. So I'm going to go over the pattern in here and then what I did to make it sound more buildy. I don't know. I don't really have a term for it. Okay. So our kicks are just playing simple half notes, like so, but we're accenting it with these snares that are playing quarter note triplets. Would those be half note triplets? I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty sure that would be quarter note triplets. Now, they're not perfectly quarter note triplets. We have them set up so they start over and loop every 2 bars instead of just continuing on the offbeat like they normally would. Now, I'm messing with the velocity right here for this little fill. And then when it gets to the second part, where it starts to build more, I mess with the velocity a little more. Now, you can kind of do this however you want. Just anything you do will make it sound a little bit more unique, right? And then with the fine pitch, I just dragged this right up there. And what that'll do is it'll just make the pitch of the snares go up. And you can also do it down too. You'd think that would have the opposite effect, but not really. Or you can do both. Like, who cares? Like, honestly, you can do whatever you want. If it sounds good, it is good. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about are our claps right here. Now for our claps, I think I made it out of a combination of 2 or 3. Yeah, just 2. I use this one. God damn. I use this one just for the top end, and that one for the middle. Just EQ'd them to work together, and then I just sped it up over time. You can't even really hear them that well. They're just there for accents. For our hi-hats, the hi-hats remain the exact same. Just the same pattern keeps playing. And for our little drum fill right here, I took some toms, made a little pattern with them. The main important thing is that I had the velocity of all of them go up over time. Now, I didn't just make a perfectly straight line. I wanted to imitate the hits of an actual drum player. So I just messed with the toms a little bit. Now, obviously, unless you have really realistic samples and spend a ton of time on it, it's not going to sound exactly perfectly realistic. But that's not necessarily what I'm going for. I'm just trying to take the computer-generated sound out of it and give it just a little bit more texture. I also added this little, just a little bit of fill right there along with it before the drop hits. Okay, next is on to our effects. Okay, this is me from the future, not that far in the future. I just realized I forgot to talk about this drum loop right here. All it is this drum loop from, I believe, Scaphonics sample pack. I'm pretty sure I don't think I got this in a specific sample pack. I can't remember. It's gonna take me forever to find. But the point is I just took a little breakbeat loop right there, and I laid it over top, and that starts to come in during the break and the build. Okay, for our effects, first I'm going to talk about our risers right here. Now, this white noise is the exact same as everything else. It's just the exact same as this white noise right over here. Just actually not reversed. In my sample pack, which I will link in the description as well, I set them all so that way they were actual risers instead of downfalls, but I mean you can just reverse it with the button. It'll sound basically the same either way. Now for our lead here, I added this automation clip, which just, oh my goodness, which one is it? There's so many. There it is. I added this, which raises it in pitch, as well as doing a couple other things, which I'll talk about in the sound design. Now, our other effect is this riser, also from my sample pack. And this could fall under drums too, but we have this reverse crash. Okay, for our melodic elements, it stays pretty constant. There's not really much that changed from the intro. We have this art that's still here. We have our lead. Which is still playing the same melody, except this pattern is made unique, so that way it just plays a note in the root of the key once we get to the last few bars. And then finally we have these little offbeats. And that's just about it for the melodic elements. But while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this vocal riser right here.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
So I can go into a detailed explanation about how I did this vocal riser. I actually have a tutorial about it, which goes into more detail. But basically, if you want to change the pitch without stretching it, you set the mode to stretch, which seems a little counterintuitive. And then you can automate the pitch from there, which actually lets us automate the pitch in real time. And if you don't want to have all the messy automation clips everywhere, you can actually go through and just render this portion as its own, so that way you can get rid of the automation clips if you want your playlist to look a little neater. Now here we have our second vocal riser. Now originally, as you can see here, I had this vocal riser continue, but I felt that was a bit boring, so I added this sample that I used in the beginning.
You'll be more famous dead than alive.
And I did the exact same thing with it.
Come on!
I have the reverb and delay automated with this one right here. I don't think that one's doing anything.
Come on! Come on! Come on!
Now the same thing goes for this one right here. You just have the reverb automated over time more and more, so that way it fills up more space and generally has a wider stereo image once you get towards the end of the build. You don't have to do that, but I generally like to, and then I like to cut it during the fill, because all that space can kind of muddy it up right before the drop, and then some of it can still tail into the drop depending on how long the decay is, and I just generally don't like that. So that's it for the melodic elements. Now we can move on to our sound design. Okay, sound design time. Let's go. Okay, so the only real sound design that's any different from our sound design in the previous episode, which is, if you haven't seen, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here is building off from the last episode where we talk about the intro. So if you haven't seen that one, go ahead and check it out first, and then we can move on. Okay, so I'm assuming you just came back from that if you haven't already watched it. So the only sound design that's any different is our lead right here. This macro right here is automating a few things. You can see it's mapped to 4 different controls. Now number 1 is our FM right here. Now this isn't necessary. Obviously all of these are just creative choices that you can make yourself, but I like to mess with the FM a little bit when it comes to risers specifically, just that way I can add some more harmonics as we get a little closer, just to change the sound up a little bit. And I'm also automating the reverb. I thought I just had to automate the mix here, but for some reason, I don't know what was going on. It wasn't cutting off straight away when I turned this macro down, unless I turned down the size too for some reason. It was really messing with me. If I turned the mix down with my mouse, it worked, but not with the macro. I don't know what was up with that, so I just automated both to make it a little bit easier. And then finally, I went into the matrix here, and I automated the master tune by 2 octaves. So if you don't know how to do this, if you're just messing with this to try and get it exactly right, just go into global, double click for typable values on controls, and then make sure you hit save. I don't remember where the save button is for your saving settings. I can't remember. You'll figure it out. It's different on this skin. And then you can just double click right here and type in 24. Now, as soon as you type in 24, you'll see that it doesn't actually go to 24 semitones, that it just goes to the amount 24. If you want to do semitones specifically, you type in 24 ST, lowercase, no spaces. That'll take you to semitones, because for some reason that's not a 1-to-1 ratio. There's probably more complicated stuff involved in that that just goes over my head. But just type in the amount of semitones that you want. 24 is, of course, 2 octaves, and then there you go. Okay, so that's just going to about do it for this episode. The next episode we're going to be covering the drops. Now they're pretty much the same, there's just some variation in there. We'll get a little bit more into that next time. Be sure to let me know what you guys want to see in the next video. After this series, of course, I'm going to probably continue this with more genres. I just don't know what I should go for next. So if you have anything that you specifically want to see, then let me know. Even if it's not something that I typically do, I'm sure I'll give it a shot, and I'll let you know if it doesn't work out.
What is this, chat? Subscribe to QBM? Okay, well, I guess that counts then.